Alice?
Yeah?
Can I borrow your daughter's tablet to film something?
Yeah?
Cheers. Let's go. Hello, welcome to this video. It's going to be all about how to make your own vlog using the equipment you've already got. But can we just take a second to look at this view? Absolutely ridiculous. I've got a few cameras with me that I thought might be good starting points for you if you've got just a smartphone like this. This is a iPhone SE2, so it's quite basic, but it does the job. It's got one camera, wide angle lens on that one. I've got my iPad, which has a camera on there as well, so you know if that's all you've got, you can film straight onto your iPad. And then I've got this, which I borrowed from my girlfriend, which is an Amazon Fire. It's actually her daughter's that she uses to play her little games on. So, right, let's start with the iPhone. Let's see what we can get here of this view. This is, of course, how I would hold the phone, just like that, a landscape view. But you know, why not? If you want to make videos like that, why don't you do that? It's absolutely fine. If that's your sort of your new angle on it, why not? But here we are. This is the standard way that you would film stuff on. For YouTube anyway, and yeah, so let's just see how that goes. Just film a little bit of that, and there we go. Now we're getting a little bit shaky on there, aren't we? So I think I've got this ledge here that I'm just going to use to position the camera. It is a little bit windy today, so we might not be able to do this, but there we go. So if I put the phone down like that and then I press record, let's see what we get there. So I'm just going to leave the phone as it is. Hopefully that'll get a nice view. Check that out. I mean, it is a bit lopsided, you know, we're not getting everything in, but you can always move the phone. So if I move the phone now to the edge of this ledge, and I'm still positioning my hand on the outside, but I'm getting some stabilization from the stone itself. So if I can just do that, I mean, I could do a tilt here. I can go from the canal up to the hills in the distance. That's a nice shot. And then in reverse, could do that. Or you could do it really quickly to have some kind of, like, I don't know, ending to the video. Something you might not be able to get hold of because they don't make them anymore is this case. You can get rubber cases for things. I really recommend them because obviously they're better than plastic because they'll eventually degrade quicker, won't they? So slightly more eco-friendly. And also, yeah, it's just, you've got that solid edge that you could just prop up anywhere. Let's see what the iPad can do. I have to admit, this is the first time I've ever used my iPad to film anything, so I don't know what the results are going to be. Probably a bit shaky because there's just so much of it to hold, isn't there? So it's really hard to keep that steady, especially in one hand. Let's put it down somewhere and see what we can do. Yeah, as you can see, even with my hand holding it down, it's a little bit too windy, so it's just shaking all over the place. Let's go down the hill and see if we can find the lock. Or something else to play around with. Before we walk down the hill, this is the view from the Amazon Fire cam, and it's okay. It's just a little bit wobbly, isn't it? So it needs to be propped up against something. Just as we're walking down to the canal, I can point out where it sort of cuts through. It comes from that way, under the Gauxham Viaduct there, all the way down there, and carries on that way. So that way is where you get to Rochdale and then Manchester. And that way is Sorby Bridge, Halifax, Leeds, so, you know, that side of the country. The reason I tend to avoid using tripods is that I've got my camera with me all the time. I don't necessarily have my tripod on me all the time. And if I'm jumping out of a lock, you know, I'm on the canal, on my boat, it's dangerous to carry all this equipment with you. So the safest and quickest way for me to get a shot sometimes, especially if something's happening and I've just got to capture it, is by using an action camera like a GoPro or this iPhone here. I also feel really strongly that if you are struggling to be creative, or if you're stuck like that somehow, it's best to really pare everything back to the bare bones of, like, just to try and restrict yourself so that you haven't got too many effects to play with. You haven't got too many little gizmos that are going to take time out of the your creative energy, take the energy out of your creative process. So if you've only got one camera to worry about, your mind is so much freer to think about the camera angles and telling the story, which is obviously the most important thing. Now a shot like that, I could have missed it if I had a tripod. And luckily the stabilisation on this camera is just enough that you could be forgiving that I haven't mounted it. But yeah, with a lot of cheap cameras, if you're moving the camera around, it's difficult to get a nice picture. So I think I definitely recommend having a still shot rather than trying to move it around all over the place. So let's get back to what you can substitute a tripod for. Well, walls like this, absolutely fantastic. Just putting your phone on top of there, or even, you know, just down into some kind of crevice where you can rest it, is just, you know, that's perfect like that. But there are still some pretty cool effects you can get going. So if I just press record there, we can start the camera like that and tilt up. And actually we've also got a little bit of pull focus in there as well from the autofocus, focusing on the stone. Beautiful. I'm going to leave sound for another vlog about vlog production, because it is so important, but I don't want to get into it right now. So forgive me for that. But if you've got any questions about anything that I'm mentioning in this video, drop it into the comments below. Down on the canal itself now, and I've just spotted one of these mooring bollards, and these are quite good to put your whatever camera you've got on top of. But when it's windy, that will fall off. So what we could do is place it down here, and then we can get the whole hill in, because we've got all these dandelion seeds flowing around, and that's quite a cool thing to see, and especially with the light coming down from the top there, it should look pretty cool. A lot of what I shoot isn't perfect. You've got to try and let go of perfectionism if you want to, well, be consistent and keep making vlogs and being creative with it as well. And sometimes you come across brand new techniques you haven't thought of just by accident, because you haven't been so worried about doing it the proper way. Back on Firecam, we've got a problem here because the camera's not actually that great in direct sunlight, like most cameras. It can't adjust to that harsh light, and this harsh sunlight is causing a lot of shadows on my face. So one tip to do is just to move into the shade, and there we go. That should be much, much better. But the stabilisation on this camera is awful. If you are stuck for a proper camera, you have to use your girlfriend's child's Amazon Fire thingy, tablet, then, you know, make a joke of it. Because it is difficult to put humour into vlogs, to force it in. You just always say, never try and be funny, because the humour will surely come out of whatever mishaps happen whilst you're telling your story on camera. Right, this lock is perfect to show you some of the ways that I get around not having a tripod and not having all the best equipment. So I think we'll start with the one that's furthest away, which is my iPhone, and that's getting a lovely little shot of some daisies with the lock in the background. And you can see that I've just kept it from falling over with some sticks. So whatever you've got to hand, you can just use to prop it up. I could have put it on against that bollard, or even on top of it, on top of the lock gate. Moving back to where I was, I've got my incredibly expensive iPad in the dirt here, leaning against a bollard and just looking along the lock. So that might work if the boat was coming in, might look quite good. And then right here on the lock itself, I've got Alice's daughter's Amazon Fire, the Fire Cam, and that's just there on the lock gate itself, being propped up by one of these metal brackets here. That's just filming a nice little shot across the lock of all the dandelion seeds and blossom falling into the lock. Nice. Now when I'm filming for the BBC especially, I do use tripods a lot more. We try and make time for it because you just want that extra professional touch. So if you don't have one of these cases where you can lean it up against something else, or if you've got a camera like an SLR that you would have to mount on something, I can recommend these magic arms. There's one here just filming on my my SE2 camera. So that's set up for an iPhone, but you can get adapters for this that would allow you to put any sort of camera on it really, as long as it had one of those mounts. And that, I'm getting a nice shot there, very stable. You do occasionally make mistakes. My biggest mistake is usually chopping the top of my head off, and that's because I'm not holding my camera away from myself enough. I'm not doing the framing. I don't know if you noticed, but I never use the monitor side of it, the selfie camera side. Always use the front. That camera's 12 megapixels. It's better than the selfie camera, so why wouldn't I use it? It just takes a little bit of practice framing yourself and making sure that you've got the nice background behind you, and you don't sort of, it's all about the angles of course, but making sure you've got enough space from the camera to your face is your main goal. And sometimes you could use that to get your extra little bit difference, or a selfie stick or something like that would help you get enough of that distance that you need anyway. Because of course the problem with the selfie cam is that you're always sort of checking yourself out, and then I don't know if you've noticed, but if you've watched any TV recently and the celebrities recording themselves on these front-facing cameras, a lot of the time they look a bit sort of like they're not even looking at you, a bit boss-eyed almost, because they're staring at themselves in the camera. Vain, very vain. Right, I think I'm going to walk back now. In my last video I joked that it's, you get 1 hour of exercise and that's it. Of course that is just something that the cabinet minister said in a TV interview, so you can have as much as you like apparently, as much exercise you like, but this is my work. Vlogging outside is my work, so trying to keep those bills paid. With thanks to my Patreon supporters, my Crank It crew members. This week I'd like to add Victoria Brown to my logbook. Welcome to the Crank It crew, Victoria. And then I've got Darren Ings. Cheers for your support, mate. There you are in the book. And then I've got Ben Watmer, who rejoins the crew. And because, mate, you've been such a long-term supporter of the video, I've actually put you in twice. Here's your second time in the logbook. And finally, I've got Ken Boak. Ken is going in the logbook as a producer, so I've got to add some little red flags by the side of his name. Ken, thanks so much for supporting the videos, and I do hope you and your boat in Hebton Bridge are well and good. Cheers! This is actually probably the hardest thing for me to film in the vlogs, is the names going to the book. I don't want to get them wrong, because I've got one shot at it, just writing the names. Right, so as I'm making my way back home to my girlfriend's house, I'm going to give you a few more tips along the way, and also some homework coming up for anyone who's wanting to do this themselves. Try something different. I haven't tried this before. Look at me, I'm just lying down in front of a real nice shot. Will it work? I have no idea, but just try something new, try something a bit mad. Another tip is to keep that lens clean, so just give it a wipe every now and then. Shoot from the hip and see what kind of moments you capture. A lot of the time I just leave the camera running because sometimes you go into tunnels or whatever like this and the sound changes and something unexpected happens, and it can be quite magical. For this shot I'm just literally resting the phone against the brickwork of this bridge, so that might be quite a good idea. And then this way I am tilting sideways out until I reach the canal, and it should focus on the canal. I think the biggest tip I could give you is just don't make excuses. Don't try and think, well, I've got to buy the best camera I can find, or I could spend hundreds of quid on editing software. Just use what you've got now, and just see where it takes you. Right, towpath's getting a little bit busy now, so I'm going to have to take a shortcut and get back home, but I just want to leave you with some homework. So if you're not doing anything and you fancy having a go at making your own vlog, I want you to film a 2-minute piece. Don't worry about editing it, just put something all together from start to finish, even if you're just moving your phone around your home or whatever, and just tell me what you want your videos to be about. What's your sort of background, what your name obviously is, and what equipment you're using as well, and tweet that to me at Robbie Cumming, and I'll have a look through them and we'll make a video out of your submissions. How about that? Anyway, until next time, thanks for watching this vlog and keep on cranking it. I thought I might add this on to the end of the video because since editing I've decided that although I did get some good shots with the iPhone SE 2, especially nice landscapes like that, some of what I filmed was really disappointing. Look how out of focus that is, and just the colours are lacking. So I'm afraid that is going back to Apple and getting my 550 quid back, which I actually need to pay my Canal River Trust licence, so there we go.